What's up guys, Justin here with the renderingessentials.com. So in today's video, we're going to check out all the new features contained inside of the newest version of Vray for SketchUp version 6. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. All right, so you can check out all of the features in the new version of Vray by going to this website right here. So chaos.com/Vray/SketchUp/what's new. I will link to this in the notes down below if you want to check out the full page, as well as linking to the more detailed page that shows you about each one of the new features and to the release notes right here, because it's actually a pretty long list of things that were actually changed and adjusted. All right, so first off, probably the biggest new feature and also the one I have the most questions about is coming out of the merger between Enscape and Vray. And so what it is now Vray can read the Enscape scenes that you create. So what you can do is you can use Enscape in order to set up a scene. So you can use the different tools, the asset libraries, other things like that. And that scene will also work inside of Vray. So it gives you access to that asset library and basically all of the other tools that you get inside of Enscape. So notice how, for example, when they make this change, the change reflects across Vray as well. And so one thing I will say when I do this, and I mean, it's working fine. So if I place a number of different objects using Enscape like this and click on apply, those will get incorporated in my scene right here. I am finding that I'm having to stop and start my interactive rendering in order to get them to pop up, but they are definitely popping up in here using the Enscape models, as are your proxies in your SketchUp model right here. And so the interactivity in here and bringing those in Enscape and then having them transfer across to Vray is working great. You do want to make sure inside of your Vray preferences that you have Enscape compatibility turned on. But if you make a change and those don't show up in your Vray frame buffer, just stop and start your interactive rendering in order to get those changes to show up. So I'm really interested to see how this one is going to be received. I mean, for me, now that it's in here, even making this video, I was finding that I was using Enscape to populate things like the scattering tools and other things like that. They were linking over into Vray, but there is kind of a prerequisite there, and that prerequisite is you do need to have both an Enscape and a Vray license in order to do that. And so that does raise a question for me, and I'm hoping you can help me out with this. Do you use multiple different rendering programs, and also would you be willing to purchase like a separate license? Because as far as I know, the Vray license and the Enscape license are completely separate licenses, right? I don't think there's really a bundle function in here that I can find. So I guess my question is, and I'm probably going to do a poll and link to it in the comments down below, do you have more than one rendering program? Would you consider more than one rendering program? Or would you expect this to be kind of included as like a bundle? Or what are your thoughts on this? I'm just interested to hear a little bit about your workflow in the comments, but also vote in the poll and let me know. So next up, we've got Chaos Cloud Collaboration. And so basically what this tool does is it allows you to quickly share your images with your team in order to get feedback. You can do this directly from inside of the Vray frame buffer. So this is a quick render. Obviously, I didn't do a whole lot of work setting it up, but you can go to File, Upload Image to Chaos Collaboration. What that's going to do is that's going to pop up a window that's going to allow you to set where you're going to upload that. And so when I upload it like this, so then you can view this in your browser. So if you click on it right here, go ahead and accept cookies. So then from here, you can share this with other members in your team, and they can also leave comments. So like, for example, with this one, I mean, obviously this would be needs better materials and better lighting. But if I wanted to leave that comment on here, I can leave it on the list and other people on the team can see it. So you can also pin a specific location by clicking on the pin button right here before you type in your comment. So if I click right here and then I add a comment, so in this case, write better glass, and click on the add button, that is going to add a comment with a pin associated with it right here. So you can actually see a location in here and you can highlight the comment by clicking on it. And then once something is fixed, you can click on this button right here in order to close something out or mark it as resolved as well. So it's kind of a team render management tool. So there's also a tool now for creating procedural clouds. All right, so those clouds are going to be located in your sky settings. And there's more information on these in the documentation, but you can find those inside of your sky settings. So if you go into your asset editor, and I'm going to go into my environment right here, or my sunlight, I'm going to click on my sunlight and scroll down. We'll notice how there's an option here for clouds. So when I check the box for clouds, I can do things like adjusting the density of the clouds, as well as the variety, the height of the clouds up in the air. So you can make them higher or lower, as well as how thick those clouds are. Notice how, by the way, if I bring my density way up, those clouds are actually going to block my sunlight in my scene. So you can see that in this interactive render right here, that the sunlight is being blocked by those clouds. There's also an option down below for dynamic clouds. So the dynamic clouds functionality is going to give you the ability to export rendered animations where the clouds actually move across the sky. And again, notice how they are affecting the lighting inside of your scene, like this. And so one other thing I haven't really had a chance to test, but it is something they're noting, is they've noted that there is much faster animation export here. So if you're exporting to animations, it's supposed to be up to 10 times faster. I don't really have any benchmark to test that against, so maybe you guys can check it and double check, but this could represent a significant improvement in how long your renderings take for animation in Vray. We've also got a new tool called Vray Enmesh that's basically designed to let you create geometry with patterns inside your model. And so the way that Vray Enmesh works is you select a mesh like this wall right here, and you add an Enmesh object to that selected. So if I click in here, it's going to add this Enmesh object right here. And so if you go inside your asset editor under geometry, that Enmesh object will show up in here. Okay, and so what you do is you click on the button to add objects to add this to the Enmesh selection. All right, and so just one thing to know about this tool is the UV mapping that it's using is going to be really important. So you need to make sure that you've mapped the material on this surface. You can do that either by right-clicking on the object and going to your UV tools and doing a triplanar projection or one of these projection methods, or I use the extension through paint. It gives me a little more control over the way that this texture is mapped on this surface, but that UV mapping has to be set up for this to work. The other thing to know about this is you can adjust the size by coming in here and adjusting the tiling. So if I adjust the tiling like this, notice how those objects are going to get bigger or smaller. So if I adjust this to like 10, for example, it's going to adjust the size of these objects. The other thing to be aware of with this is that if you adjust the height percentage in your Enmesh settings, then these are going to get thicker, right? Because these objects down here have a thickness. So if I bring this height to like 500%, right, notice how these actually have a thickness in the 3D space. So this is actually a really interesting tool for creating these repeating meshes inside of Vray. All right, so this one's actually really interesting to me because what it allows you to do is it allows you to set the placement of things based on the location of other objects. So I've got this very simple scene in here, right? I've just got a Vray fur, and then I've got an object right here. Well, if I go into my settings, so I go in my geometry right here and I go find that fur, under the parameters, you can add a density map. And so what the density map is going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to add a texture slot. So in this case, we're going to scroll down and we're going to find the distance right here. And so when we do that, what that's going to do is that's going to create a gradient based on the distance from an object you select. So in this situation, we'll make this a little bit smaller. Let's say that I was to select this object right here, and I was to add that object to my fur distance map, right? So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to add that object. What that's going to do is that's going to use this object, and it's going to create a gradient right here based on that object. And so what you can do with this is you can adjust things like the distance. So if I make this distance bigger, for example, notice this is going to adjust the distance at which that grass is created from this object. So you can use this not only to set distances like this, but you can also set how hard or soft that transition is by adjusting the color of the gradient. And so one other cool thing you could do with this is you could also swap these like this. And what that would do is that would make your material only show up close to your object rather than far away. So notice how I can adjust the distance based on this slider right here again, but I can also set if I want that to like fall off a little bit. So if I was to drag this up like this, notice how I get a little bit more gray. And so if I have a gray rather than a dark, what that's going to do is outside of this, it's going to kind of like fade it out a little bit. So you can use this in order to adjust the way that how close things are placed to other things inside of Vray. All right, so there are a ton of other features in here. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them in depth, but there's a couple I did want to talk about. So the first one is the all assets inside of Chaos Cosmos. So now basically what that means is if you go into your asset editor in your materials section and you click on the right hand side over here, now the Vray material library is now built into Chaos Cosmos. So instead of having all of those installed when you install Vray, you have to download them all from Cosmos. Now there are obviously pluses and minuses to this, and I'm interested to see what the feedback is going to be. The minus minus, obviously, is that all of those materials aren't sitting on your computer. So you do have to be online in order to use these now. I think you can get some of these in offline mode. So if you click on them and download them, for example, I think they become available offline. So you could definitely do that. And those will show up in the little drop down under downloaded right here. So if I go into my materials, I can see the materials that I've downloaded on my computer right here. The upside to something being cloud-based like this is that they can make updates and improvements to those materials. So they can add to that library without you having to download those onto your computer. So I'm interested to see what the feedback is going to be on this one. Personally, now that I have a faster internet connection, I don't really care as much as I did before. But for those of you with a slower internet connection, it's just something to be aware of. All right, so another feature that I am all about is the ability to pause your renders. So this is a cool one because basically what it does is it allows you to kind of like auto save your renders so that you can start those renders where they left off in the previous session. So if you've ever had a rendering just like go away because the power went out or something else happened, that can be really frustrating. Well, this is going to basically create a temporary file that stores the data from the completed buckets of rendering. All right, so the way that you enable that is you just go into your asset editor, and in your settings for your render, under render output, there's an option for resumable rendering. That's going to allow you to set your autosave interval. I'm not 100% sure. I think this is in minutes, but I'm not really sure. Just be aware that if you set that autosave interval really low, then what's going to happen is it's going to be autosaving a lot and it's really going to slow down your render. Make sure that you read this whole resumable rendering page in the documentation just so you understand the way that this works. But I think this is a huge plus so that you don't lose all of that time if something happens during your rendering. All right, so another question I've gotten a lot in the past is about scaling your HDRI images with the dome light. And that's something that's been a little bit frustrating before because you haven't really had the ability to do too much transformation on that in the way that maybe would be fairly easy to do. So what they've done is they've added this new option for a finite dome. And so if you use a finite dome, what that's going to do is that's going to take your dome and it's actually going to create that as a dome inside of your model. And so I'm going to drop this down to like 750 so you can see it, but you can see how now what this is doing is this is taking your HDRI image and it's applying it to this dome right here. And the dome actually has like a ground to it and you can adjust the size of this using this radius. So let's say I set this to like 1500, that's going to be all around my object right here. And so you can use this to kind of adjust the size of that dome light. So notice how if I adjust this up, right, you're seeing that change in the background. So this actually gives you the ability to control that inside of your rendering. Now you do want to be a little bit careful to make sure it's completely all the way around your objects, obviously, but having that finite dome with a floor, I think is a really powerful thing that gives you more control over those renders. So there have also been other improvements and other kinds of materials added, like iridescent materials, more realistic translucent materials, other things like that. You can read about all of these in the release notes, which I will link to in the notes down below. All right, so lots of interesting stuff in this release. So I'm particularly interested in the Enscape to Vray bridge. For me, because I have licenses for both of them, that's really interesting to me. I'm finding myself using it just as kind of a default because I find it to be really fast. But I'd like to hear from you. Do you have licenses for multiple different programs? Is this something that's useful to you? I'm just trying to get some feedback on that because I'm not really sure myself. So leave a comment about that or anything else in Vray 6. I just love having that conversation with you guys. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.